Let's remember, we keep us safe. We keep us warm. We are the safety net. And together, we can cover the unsheltered. Get caught up in the spirit of the season, the spirit of love. Make a difference with your friends at KBLA Talk 1580.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis, Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavismiley.com. That's thetavismiley.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, three guests up first.
I'm Barack Obama, and I am proud to be narrating the new Netflix nature docuseries, Our Oceans.
And I'm Inka Cresswell, a marine biologist and one of the researchers on Our Oceans.
She knows more than me. I grew up in Hawaii, so the ocean was literally my backyard. You know, I have memories of being a 3- and 4-year-old and splashing in the waves and riding on the shoulders of my grandfather, picking up shells and building sandcastles. So the sounds of oceans, the smell of oceans, that really shaped my life.
So for me, not dissimilar. I'm from Brighton, so we're right by the ocean. Much colder ocean.
I was about to say.
Much, much colder, but
right.
I grew up with the ocean just always a constant part of my life.
This is likely our final conversation as part of our year-long climate justice dialogues. We will speak with Inka Cresswell about her Netflix documentary, Our Oceans, narrated, as you heard, by Barack Obama at the top of Hour 2. On the B side of Hour 2, noted black economist William Sandy Darity on the potential racial and social harms of a nearly all-white presidential cabinet in this modern-day America. In our third hour, Jane Allen, author of the beloved and best-selling Black Girls Must Die Exhausted trilogy, talks about her new Christmas story, The Most Wonderful Time, a novel, and why black women make the best protagonist. But in this first hour, two more conversations on the B side of this hour. Princeton University religious scholar and theorist Jeff Stout on democracy, grassroots organizing, and where fellow citizens of faith go from here. But let's commence today's show talking politics with Newsweek White House correspondent Dan Bush. Dan Bush, good to have you on the program, sir. How are you today?
Hi, Tavis. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Man, I'm doing well. Thanks for coming on. Let me just jump right in and make the most of our time here. There really is no other place to start but this. I was live on the air yesterday when this bombshell, or these bombshells, plural, dropped. So Jack Smith, special counsel, moved yesterday to dismiss both the election interference case and the classified documents case against Donald Trump. I ain't got to call it much more than that. How did you read these bombshells yesterday? Not that they weren't expected at some level, but when it happened, it resonated. How did you feel it?
That's right. I mean, it was definitely two bombshells. As you said, not unexpected. You know, we knew that if Trump were to win the election, that he would move to end these investigations, both of them by the federal government. And, you know, we even heard President-elect Trump as a candidate vowing to fire Jack Smith, the special counsel, within 2 seconds of taking office. So this was expected, but it, as you said, really reverberates in the legal and political communities now as people try and make sense out of what this means for not just President Trump once he takes office, but other presidents going forward. So there are a lot of unanswered questions, Tavis, about whether or not how much immunity a president really has coming off the Supreme Court ruling, whether or not this will make it harder for the Justice Department to appoint special counsels going forward to look into potential wrongdoing by administrations in the future. So a lot of unanswered questions here, but the bottom line right now is that these two cases do go away. That's what the motion that Smith filed yesterday did, the formal process to bring these cases to a close, and it means that Trump will not be held accountable by the federal government for the crimes he was charged with for election interference and for classified documents.
Dan Bush has laid the foundation quite nicely. When we come forward, I want to probe the things he just said. In fact, some of those unanswered questions, we can start to speculate at least. Dan can offer his own opinion about some of these unanswered questions that are going to have to be wrestled with in the months to come. We will certainly talk about the issue of accountability. I mean, I know that let me just put it this way, Dan, every black person I know, I suspect, maybe not Tim Scott, maybe not Byron Donalds, maybe not Scott Turner, but every other black person I know is just, SMH, shaking my head, right? And I'm keeping it clean for radio. I'll just go with SMH. There are others I could that I know y'all use in tweet vernacular or text vernacular. But we'll just go with SMH, shaking my head. It is hard to, well, I guess I was about to say it's hard to imagine, but really it isn't. This is America, and this is what being a wealthy white male affords you. We're going to talk about that too. Our guest to commence today's program is Newsweek White House correspondent Dan Bush. Pleased to have him on. Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking.
That's what we do around here.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
An official message from Medicare.
Couple more minutes, and we'll start this month's book club.
You know, I usually love a plot twist, but this year, I'm comparing my options during Medicare open enrollment.
You can't assume your current health or drug plan is the best one for you.
And you gotta make sure your drugs are covered. That's important.
So is saving money.
Review all your options at Medicare.gov. Open enrollment ends December 7th. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down, get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Freedom is an endless meeting, so let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley, Newsweek White House correspondent Dan Bush. Dan, you mentioned earlier there are a lot of questions that need to be answered perhaps more questions than answers over the last 24 hours. But let me just start with this. Um, to your mind, what does it say about America, about a so-called democracy, where are many, many, many things that one cannot do with 34 felony indictments? There are many things that one cannot do if one has stolen state secrets. And there are many things that one would never be allowed to do if one fomented an insurrection. And yet, that's what we see here. And Donald Trump will not be held accountable for any of his deeds. It's a sobering day, and I'm not even playing politics with this. I mean, my views about Donald Trump are pretty well known to this audience and beyond. So I'm not playing politics here. I'm asking, I think, a deeply rooted question about what this says about the state of our democracy, that others could never get away with one of these things, let alone the three I just laid out: fomenting insurrection, stealing state secrets, 34 felony counts. But apparently you can do all that and still run for president and win and make all this stuff go away. It's a sobering and sad day. It's a grim moment for me, Dan.
I hear you, and I think your question really gets at the root of this issue for a lot of Americans who are seeing these events unfold, because really it's a question of fairness and justice. Mm-hmm. And as you just laid out, Tavis, most people cannot conduct the kind of behavior that we've seen from President Trump and expect to continue to hold jobs, professional relationships, succeed in life, and so on. And yet a lot of Americans are taking stock of this moment and saying that President Trump appears to be above the law. It's important to note quickly that Trump himself has denied wrongdoing. He fought these cases in court. He's argued that this is a political persecution by his enemies. Mm-hmm. But Americans saw with their own eyes what happened on January 6th, right? Mm-hmm. They saw the mob attack the Capitol. Americans saw with their own eyes the photographs of classified documents that were stored at Trump's home in Florida at Mar-a-Lago, famously in a bathroom, right? Piled mm-hmm. up sort of haphazardly next to the toilet. So people have seen what he's done and are now asking the question, why is it that he can get away with that? And I think it does speak to deep divides in this country when it comes to wealth and privilege. And Donald Trump is someone who throughout his career, both in the private sector and the public sector, has run into many, many different legal battles and always come away, for the most part, unscathed. And it speaks to the resources that he has to get out of legal issues that most Americans, frankly, don't have. And so I do think that there's a lot of consternation, disappointment, as you said, people shaking their head right now saying, well, this is the way our country is right now, and Trump is going to get a free pass.
No, for many people, this is America. And I don't mean just black folk. There are a lot of people, I think, who are looking at this and just concluding that this is America, and it raises deep, deep, deep questions about fundamental fairness. If America is about anything, or ought to be about anything, we advance this notion. This is the ideal, the IDEAL that we profess, that we are a nation that believes in fundamental fairness. But that ain't the idea that we see at play in this moment. I got to reach out to Benny Thompson. Benny Thompson is a personal friend and a friend of this program, more importantly, and has come on this program many, many times. So we got to call Benny Thompson and ask him to come on for just a few minutes to ask him what he makes of all this. But I want to put this question to Dan Bush before I get to Benny Thompson, and that is, when you look back now, Dan, on the work of Benny Thompson's January 6th Select Committee, what's it all mean? I mean, what was it all for naught? Should we be grateful that we got it on the record? I mean, when you look at all the work they did, the painstaking work that they did in that committee, at this point in the rearview mirror, what's it all mean? What of it?
Well, hindsight is 20/20. I'm glad that you're having Congressman Thompson on again. I just spoke with him, I guess, a couple months ago at the Democratic National Convention on these very issues. Mm-hmm. And look, I think that what he'll tell you and what he's said in the past is he was doing his job, right? Congress's responsibility, one of its responsibilities, is to oversee the federal government, to provide oversight, and that includes the executive branch. So after what happened on January 6th, members of Congress from both sides of the aisle decided that they needed to show the American people that no, presidents are not above the law, and they require oversight, and they require some degree of accountability if they try and break the law or allegedly try and break the law. And so I think that Thompson and the Select Committee put a lot of work in, as we all know, many, many months, over a year. They assembled a lot of facts, and they did their due diligence. And the result speaks more to these broader issues of the justice system that we're touching on than they do to anything that he could have accomplished, because ultimately the end result was beyond Congressman Thompson's control. The only thing they could do was recommend an outcome, and then after that it was in the hands of the Justice Department. We just saw what Jack Smith did.
The irony of all this is, and the irony is not lost on me, I was just reading a piece today before I came on the air, and I'm trying to see if I can find it right quick because I want to quote the guy's name, and Dan Bush knows this stuff better than I do, so he may know. So let me just tee this up because you may know more, again, have more access to it than I do. The story that came out today, Dan, where President-elect Trump has asked for an investigation and somebody on his transition team for taking money to advance names. You saw this story?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a story. I'm just trying to find it right quick. So as I said, there's a story out today that there's a particular individual on Mr. Trump's team that is accused of taking money to advance names in this transition process to get people coveted positions in the Trump administration. And President-elect Trump, the nerve, I mean the nerve of him to ask for an investigation of this particular person on his team who may have taken money to gain access to the higher ranks of positions that the Trump administration has to fill. I just want you to think about it. Just let that sit for a second. That he's asking for an investigation of somebody else while he's escaped all of this stuff that he, again, has been alleged to do. But we've seen this stuff in front of our eyes. I raised that particular issue, Dan, in part because it takes me back to what you said earlier about special counsels. So Trump's calling for an investigation of this particular person, but apparently he will have the power inside the Department of Justice to decide what does warrant a special counsel, what in fact does get quashed, and I ain't even got to immunity yet. But here you have the special counsel folding up his tent and going home before he even gets inaugurated, which makes makes a bold statement to me about the power he will have, questions notwithstanding, but the power I presume he will have to decide what does and what does not warrant special counsel, and that's a big deal, Dan Bush.
It is. That's exactly right, and it remains to be seen what Trump will do with that power once he's in charge. Certainly, the Attorney General reports to the President, and it is up to the President and the Attorney General to decide what, if anything, to investigate. So there is nothing stopping Trump from fulfilling his campaign promise to persecute his enemies, prosecute them, I should say, with Justice Department investigations. That would presumably be special counsels. He can direct his Attorney General nominee, Pam Bondi, if she's confirmed by the Senate, to launch special investigations into anybody he wants. Now, historically, there's been some measure of independence here. That's sort of the way the justice system is set up, right? That the Department of Justice operates somewhat independently from the president, pursues, the law without regard to political considerations. But in reality, those lines can be easily blurred. We saw Trump try and do that in his first term. And if he wants to, he'll do that again. And again, it'll speak to the sort of core issue you raise, which is who has power and who doesn't in this country, and what it is that one can get away with when they're in control.
This might be a stretch, but I don't think so. The whole nation is watching, the whole world rather. The whole world is watching our nation, and they clearly see here the issues that are at play. And I wonder what happens the next time that we try to raise in a global context this notion of the rule of law. There are all kinds of things that we do and don't do born of our belief, I'm talking now globally, born of our belief in the rule of law. Well, the rule of law has been turned on its face now. So I wonder what happens again on the international stage the next time we try to make an argument based on the rule of law, Dan Bush.
That's a very good question. We're going to have to see what happens. Certainly, President Biden has said for the past 4 years that he spent his presidency reestablishing America's reputation abroad after the Trump years, going back, strengthening international alliances like NATO, talking to allies, reassuring them that America, is a sort of beacon for the rule of law and democracy and so on. Now all that might get turned on its head, and I do think that you're right that it'll be harder for America to assert itself, as a sort of champion of democratic values, if our allies and our adversaries, frankly, can point a finger back at us and say, yes, but take a look at yourself.
Yeah, I mean, in some respects, we look like a banana republic today. That's just my read. We look like just a banana republic. That has a strong man that got his way, and all his dirty deeds, his misdeeds now get swept under the rug because of his assent. The other issue that you raised, Dan, I want to get you to opine on is the issue of immunity. Does this current moment, this grim moment, as I referred to it earlier, does this current moment, given what happened yesterday, suggest to you or say to you anything, or lead you as a correspondent to focus any differently on this issue of immunity going forward?
The Supreme Court ruling on immunity was unprecedented, and we don't know how it will hold up until it gets tested. And what the court said in a narrow way was that former presidents are immune from criminal prosecution for official acts in office. So theoretically, that means, as Sonia Sotomayor famously said in her dissent, Justice Sotomayor, that a president could order anything up to and including extrajudicial murder, killing someone. And once they leave office, they cannot be prosecuted for it. That was an extreme example, of course, but it spoke to the broad level of immunity that the court gave Trump and other presidents. We don't know how that's going to play out. Certainly, it's possible that President-elect Trump and his team may interpret that as a sort of carte blanche to do whatever they want in terms of policy. But in speaking with constitutional law experts, legal scholars, and others, sort of trying to parse this decision, it does seem that there are still some basic roadblocks in place. That yes, this ruling says Trump can't be targeted by by prosecutors once he leaves office. But while he's in office, his administration does still have to follow basic constitutional law in terms of the policies they put in place. So I do think that there's a lot of concern that it gives him sort of, again, a blank check to do anything he wants. There will be constraints on him still, but it is an unprecedented amount of sort of authority to give a president, and we have to see what Trump does with it.
We got 2.5 minutes left, Dan Bush, and I'll give it all to you. Let me just say this, and again, this audience has heard me say this before. I think the mainstream media, frankly, failed miserably in the way they went about covering Donald Trump the first time. The mainstream media failed miserably helping him get elected by giving him all that free media the first time around. I digress on that for now. Given that you are the White House correspondent for Newsweek, and given that I believe that the frame has become even more difficult for how one goes about covering a president who has all this immunity, no accountability, have you started to wrestle with how, as a White House correspondent, you're going to cover Donald Trump?
I wrestle with that every night, Tavis. And look, I think you make some good points. And, President Obama famously referred to big democracies as tankers, as ships that turn and adjust and move very slowly. I think the same can be said of the news industry, right? You know this very well. As journalists, we're not used to someone like Donald Trump running for office and then serving as president who broke all existing norms and traditions for someone in that position. And we've been very slow as an industry to figure out how to adapt to that and how to cover that and to wrestle with questions of traditional objectivity in journalism and do they apply to Trump? Should they apply to Trump? So he's an extremely difficult and challenging person to cover. And I agree, we have not found all the answers, even though we've been at it now for 9 years since he came down the escalator in 2015. And this is going to be another chapter, and it is going to be very challenging. And we'll have to see how sort of the media writ large responds to the moment.
Pick your word. Unprecedented, grim, dark, sobering. It's one of those days, and a day that has been recorded in American history, and will be discussed by historians and others for years to come. How one could run for president, having fomented an insurrection, allegedly, stolen state secrets, allegedly, not allegedly, been found guilty of 34 felony indictments, and all of that gets washed away. And on top of it, you get broad immunity. I digress for now. White House correspondent Dan Bush is with Newsweek. I've been honored to have had Dan on this program. Dan, thanks for your time. We'll do it again. But until next time, happy holidays. Thank you for your time, my friend.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Stay strong. When we come forward, more of Tavis Smiley. We're going to talk, as I mentioned a moment ago, to American religious scholar Jeff Stout. And I was just thinking and talking to Dan about where I want to start this conversation. There are two ways to read Donald Trump's assent if you are a person of faith. One, the Bible says that vengeance is mine. We should let God handle Donald Trump. The other way to read it, as many do, is that Trump is God's man of action. He's God's man for the moment. Let's talk about that and more with Jeff Stout when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Morgan Wood with 4 things you should know from BIN News. President-elect Trump's federal election interference case is being dismissed. Special counsel Jack Smith filed a motion to drop the felony charges connected with Trump's alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election, and a judge agreed. Thanksgiving travel is already underway, and AAA predicts around 80 million people will travel at least 50 miles from home between today and next Monday. Rainy and snowy weather is expected, so patience is recommended. Drake's legal team is suing Universal Music Group and Spotify over the popularity of Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us. The Independent reports they're claiming the companies used bots and other methods to manipulate and saturate streaming services. And Queen Latifah is hosting the 47th Annual Kennedy Center Honors on December 8th. The event will air on CBS on December 22nd. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. I started Blindster in 2010 in my garage after I overpaid for new blinds. I researched the industry, hired my mom, and 14 years later, we're one of the largest retailers of custom blinds in the U.S. Don't pay too much for new blinds. Go to Blindster.com.
Is this the This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Chargers could not handle a very efficient and physical Baltimore Ravens team last night at SoFi. Baltimore beat the Chargers 30-23. 212 yards rushing for the Ravens, who made 3 fourth-down conversions. Chargers coach Jim Harbaugh is now 0-3 against his brother John Harbaugh, the Ravens head coach. The Boston Celtics made 22 three-pointers last night to cruise to a 126-94 win over the Clippers in Boston. The Celtics snapped the Clippers' 5-game winning streak. The Lakers are back in action tonight in Phoenix. The Lakers have lost 2 straight. Tennessee State is the only HBCU school that earned a spot in the 2014 Division I AA football playoffs. Tennessee State, a co-champion in the Big South Ohio Valley Conference, has a first-round game at Montana State Saturday night at 7:15. ESPN2 will have live coverage. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
I was so excited when I heard the sandwich was back. What's up? This is Mike.
And this is Celia.
And a little thing we love about the Chick-fil-A Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich
is the symphony of flavors. You can always count on that crispy, tender, juicy chicken. It's so good.
My favorite part is the pimento cheese. Topped off with the honey, it all comes together perfectly. I like the original.
I like the spicy chicken fillet. But either way,
you're getting a winner.
The Chick-fil-A Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich is back with a bite. Try it with the original or spicy filet now for a limited time. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Are you interested in catching up on all the latest entertainment news, trending topics, and exciting interviews? I got you. Tune in to The Raw Report with Robin Ayers, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. I'm your host, Robin Ayers. Join me every weekday with some of the best entertainment contributors in the business as we break down what's going on, who's got next, and what not to miss. Only on The Raw Report with Robin Ayers.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. As you're spending time with your loved ones or just taking some time to steal away for yourself, we appreciate you keeping it locked to KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
It does indeed. I'm pleased now to be joined by American religious scholar and theorist of democratic culture at Princeton, Jeff Stout. I'm not going to tell you what we're going to talk about because I don't want to box Jeff in, because there are a number of ways, a number of places and spaces I think we may occupy in these 30 minutes. He is also former president of the American Academy of Religion. As a matter of fact, they are meeting here on the West Coast in San Diego, and I appeared at their conference just over the weekend. Jeff Stout, good to hear your voice, my friend. How are you, for starters?
I'm here.
Yeah,
Great to see you. Great to hear from you.
No, that's what most of us are feeling right about now. We are here. Let me just tell you, because you weren't on the line to hear this, I don't think, but I was just talking to Dan Bush from Newsweek, the first conversation of our 3-hour program today, and I said to him, I got Jeff Stout coming up, and I want to continue this conversation with Jeff Stout and just ask this particular question, I think, to commence our dialogue with each other. And that is, when you think about Donald Trump and you look at what happened yesterday, and both of these major cases being dismissed by Jack Smith and by the federal court for that matter, and Donald Trump got away with it. He is not being held accountable. Everyday people, as Sly Stone might say, couldn't get away with that in this country, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I ain't got to tell you stuff you already know. The question I posed moments ago before you came on that I wanted to get Jeff Stout to respond to, this religious scholar, there are at least a couple ways, to read this moment with Donald Trump, if you're a person of faith. One is that vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. You leave it alone, and you let fate and God handle it. The other way to read it, it seems to me, and many others are reading it this way, is that Trump is God's man for the moment. He's God's man of action. God's hand is on Donald Trump. I digress, and I want to hear your response, Jeff Stout.
Well, it seems to me that there are quite a few more religious ways of responding to the current moment. I mean, I think back to being in the suburban congregation that I attended as a boy in a white liberal Protestant church, and I was sometimes called up to the lectern to read a few verses of scripture, and the ones that stood out to me were like, blessed are those persecuted for the sake of righteousness, blessed are the peacemakers, break every yoke, woe unto those who call evil good, let justice roll down. I mean, all of those just echoed in my soul, and when I thought about what the preacher was saying, our pastor, it seemed to me that he was reading a different book. He was a nice man and preached the gospel of niceness, and his style was just too genteel and placid to move me. And it seemed to me that he hadn't noticed what was going on around us. But you know, within a book as complicated as the Bible, you can find all kinds of resources for responding, and they're not all uplifting ones. What happened to me was I left that church and went across town where a civil rights minister was the pastor. This is my grandparents' church, and he really taught me that we mustn't claim to love our neighbors without going out into our city's neighborhoods and repairing relationships block by block. Now, that's one kind of religious response, and we're just not seeing too much of it right now.
Yeah. So what's your advice then? What do you say to those persons listening right now who are indeed persons of faith, but apparently ain't reading the same Bible they're reading, or at least our interpretation of the scriptures, to your brilliant point, is different than their interpretation of the scriptures? What's your advice to us for navigating these moments, this moment?
Well, I want to say, first of all, did any of us think that the longstanding forms of domination were simply going to fade away without reasserting themselves in these exaggerated, grotesque forms? I didn't think so.
I hear you.
The old forms of domination, and I mean racism and patriarchy and imperialism and the incredible class divide, are either going to solidify into something worse or collapse under the weight of the suffering they cause and the corruption they permit. And we just don't know which outcome we're going to have to live through here. It's not going to be it's not going to be sweet sailing, that's for sure. The clouds on the horizon don't have silver linings, but we shouldn't pretend to know what the coming storms will bring or how long they'll last. What we have to find a way to do is to somehow restore the tradition of face-to-face organizing that we found in the movements that I identify as the core of the American democratic tradition. So abolitionism and the suffragette movement and the labor movement and the civil rights movement, these were all movements that had church and synagogue involvement and which involved face-to-face organizing, which is something we've almost given up on in our contemporary form of politics.
It's clear to me, whether anybody listening right now agrees with me, it's clear to me there's a crisis in our democracy. The question is whether or not, as an American religious scholar, you see a crisis in our faith community.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, I mean, religion, like sports and music and other aspects of culture, can be excellent, good, mediocre, bad, or horrendous when judged on its own terms. And its effects on politics are equally various. And are we currently facing a crisis in the quality of our religiosity and spirituality? I think we definitely are. I mean, I've suggested that abolitionism and civil rights were greatly assisted by religious groups and leaders. They were also opposed by religious groups and leaders. Every major political conflict in previous eras of American life has pitted religious groups against each other. And the most important religious group that has receded significantly since the 1960s is white liberal Protestantism of the sort that I was raised in. And in its place, we now have a coalition of traditionalist Catholics like Vance and white evangelical Protestants like Pence. And I think that's a pretty disturbing coalition. It's institutionally, these tend to be low accountability forms of religion, which is why they are so prone to scandals. But what unites them is opposition to what they regard as secularism, the idea that religion either needs to be stamped out altogether or kept out of politics. And fear of that, fear of secularism, has driven the religious right closer and closer to theocracy. The idea that only believers in the right religion or the right kind of religion are qualified to rule. And that idea is now quite prominent in the religious right.
Let me take that word fear when we come forward and throw something else at Jeff Stout. There is, I think it's fair to say, extreme sadness, extreme fear, and I think that got exacerbated yesterday when we saw both of these cases just go away and again realize in real time that Donald Trump was not going to be held accountable. There's fear, there's sadness in this experiment in democracy because Donald Trump is headed back to the White House despite all of his violations. And when we come forward, we won't talk so much about fear, but about hope. Let's talk to Jeff Stout about hope when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From Lamert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Here's another great reason to use the United States Postal Service this season. When sending a package, why venture outside? Ship with USPS for a true holiday ride. Want to stay cozy and warm? There's no need to roam. With free package pickup and labels printed from home. We have over 600,000 employees always in motion. And before you know it, your gift has delivered emotion. Spread the holiday joy this season with USPS's Enhanced Network. Learn more at USPS.com/holidayride.
Are you an entrepreneur looking to take your business to new heights? KBLA Talk 1580 is your partner in success. Every day, we celebrate and elevate Black-owned businesses across our community. Our KBLA SMB Marketplace currently features The Cookie Dip, Bad Ash Bakes, Hair Concoction, Higher Education Accreditation Consulting, LACC Radiology Technology Department, and Malik Books. Your business deserves to be heard. Let KBLA Talk 1580 amplify your voice and connect you with our powerful community of listeners. Email smb@kbla1580.com today. That's smb@kbla1580.com. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code SNAP to get an extra 35 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code SNAP for a 35 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code SNAP for a 35 cents per gallon bonus.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Jeff Stout. I want to get to the hope that I promised I wanted to ask Professor Stout about in just a second here. But I want to get this question in right quick from one of our listeners. When I saw this question, Jeff Stout, I thought about the Wu-Tang Clan. I'm sure it's not in your playlist, but the Wu-Tang Clan and their big hit Cream, Cash Rules Everything Around Me. I thought about that when I saw this question. Professor Stout, do you think the secularization of our society means that capitalism or the larger culture has become a new religion and cash is king?
Well, I think it's certainly the case that greed has taken over a great deal of the moral psychology of the American people. And that has everything to do with the way the economy dominates other spheres of American life, other aspects of American life.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely the case.
Do you expect then that greed will be on steroids over the next 4 years?
I think greed is only one of the vices that will be on steroids over the next years. I don't think it's just a matter of economic desire, a desire for security and more wealth and so on, though that's certainly present among the economic elites. But just the sheer desire for power and the centralization and accumulation of power in the hands of the most powerful people, that's not the same thing as greed, but it's going to make things worse.
Yep. Let me ask you right quick here. And no naivete here, and the time is tight. But since you went there, let me follow you right quick. What has this election cycle, what has the results of this election cycle said to you about power? And I don't mean to color it much more than that deliberately. Since you raised the issue of power, what's been your takeaway about this notion of power in this moment? Our thirst for it.
Well, it seems to me that the paucity of grassroots democratic power, citizen power, as the ability to gather under the provisions of the First Amendment to petition for the redress of our grievances and to assemble. It's really a weakness on our side of the equation that is making it difficult for the power that's gathering in the elites to be counteracted.
Jeff Stout's comment just now notwithstanding, we will strike a hope note when we come forward and close this dialogue with noted Princeton religious scholar Jeff Stout, who you're listening to right now, and I'm glad about it, on Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
What if you could hear your favorite song for the first time again? Introducing the all-new, reimagined Nissan Kicks. With an available Bose Personal Plus sound system that uses speakers in the headrest to create a 360-degree listening experience. You've never heard anything like this. Reimagine your music and your drive. Experience the all-new, reimagined Nissan Kicks for yourself at nissanusa.com today.
Available feature. Bose is a registered trademark of the Bose Corporation.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Worried about eviction? You have rights, and Stay Housed LA can help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between LA County, the City of Los Angeles, and local service providers. From Lancaster to Long Beach, we're here to help you with tenant education workshops, legal clinics, free legal services for eligible tenants, and online resources about tenant protection laws. Don't face eviction alone. Call our hotline at 1-888-694-0040. That's 1-888-694-0040. Or visit stayhousedla.org. Stay Housed LA, keeping Los Angeles residents in their homes. Stay Housed LA, your rights, your home, our community. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Here's another great reason to use the United States Postal Service this season. Your boxes are wrapped and the gifts are in. Our employees are ready. Let the holiday ride begin. Let's start with the price. It's easy to manage when you ship with the reliable USPS Ground Advantage. In just a few days, it's sure to arrive. We're working nonstop to keep the spirit alive. USPS Ground Advantage, the affordable and reliable shipping solution for the holidays. Visit USPS.com/advantage.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
I got a tight 3 minutes here. I'll give all 3 minutes to Jeffrey Stout. Here's the exit question. I raised this issue, I believe, yesterday in our program. We didn't get a chance to get too much into it. But I was talking briefly about some recent data from Pew, the Pew Research Center, which finds that 72%, nearly 3/4 of Americans, say the U.S. used to be a good example of democracy, but is not anymore. In the midst of that, Jeff Stout, how do you instill, how do you hold on to hope?
Well, I should say, first of all, that the people who say that are right.
Yeah.
But inheriting democracy, I'm going to supplement your allusion to Cream with an allusion to Kendrick Lamar, if I may.
Oh, no, you didn't. Go ahead, Jeff Stout.
Democracy at such moments takes extra work. Quote, DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And included in that is moral work, conceptual work, rhetorical work, organizational work. And the moral work is largely a matter of finding grounds for hope. Now, by hope here, I mean the virtue of hope, the character trait, the strength of being able to keep fighting when doing so seems bleak.
Mm.
When your mood is despair, do you have the moral wherewithal to keep fighting? That's hope. That's the virtue of hope.
Mm.
It's not the same thing as optimism.
That's right.
So the organizational work can't be done mainly by think tanks and advocacy groups that haven't earned the right to speak for anyone.
Mm.
We think back to these, I keep referring to these earlier movements because I take them to be grounds for hope.
Yeah.
All of those movements had to overcome extremely formidable odds, and yet they found a way through.
Yeah. Well, that is they found a way through.
What is
that? Is I'm sorry.
Actual is also possible.
Not like say that again, Jeff. Right quick. Say it again, right quick.
What has been actual is also possible.
I love it. What has been actual is also possible. What I did not see coming was that Kendrick Lamar reference. I gave him Wu-Tang Clan, and and my white male friend from Princeton shot back with Kendrick. Didn't see that coming, but that's a beautiful thing. Jeff Stout, you just got some brownie points. You got some street cred off that reference, man.
Don't make too many assumptions about my playlist.
I got point well taken. I think Tavis just got slapped across the head. I will not make too many assumptions about Jeff Stout's playlist. I digress on that note. If I get myself in more trouble, I'll let him go. Jeff Stout, happy holidays. Good to have you on, my friend. All the best to you.
Take care.
All right, take care. Happy holidays to you. More of Tavis. That was funny. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.